The Blues beating the Satyrs in. Xavier, welcome to the program, mate. You were skipper in 03 and now the Blues are poised to try and win for the first time since that time, so it's a really good time to be a former Blues captain, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it feels like they've been doing very well. The last couple of seasons, they've really turned it around.
Yeah, look, and Leon MacDonald's done a great job. It's taken time, but he's been left to do that job, which is really important as well, because, you know, in this day and age in sport, we sack our coaches so quickly, but he's got a good team around him. And the other thing, Xavier, is they're playing excellent rugby, mate.
Yeah, they definitely are. Just getting back to Leon, I actually played in the New Zealand schoolboys with Leon and in some of the age group stuff. And you're right, it is good to see him, you know, given time. I always judge a coach after 3 years, because whatever team he inherits is never his team. He might make a few changes the next year, and by about sort of year 3, starting to get his team that he wants. And you know, well done for the Blues keeping him in there. Had a couple of hard years in there, but now it's kind of he's been able to put his stamp on it. But like I said, I always judge a coach after about year 3.
Well, going back to 2003, and, you know, just a little bit of history for people. So the Satyrs had won it in 98, 99, and they'd won it in 2000. I think the Brumbies were after that, and I think the Crusaders might have bounced back. But you guys just produced a fantastic, almost near-perfect year that year.
Yeah, we did. We played the Crusaders, I think, down there in the round robin games, and we had Rupini, Thao and Booker just absolutely on fire. We did have a very good squad. I remember Case Muse had moved up from Otago, which gave us, you know, a bit more firepower up front. And we actually won that game quite comfortably down there in Canterbury, I think. Anyway, when we got to the final, they'd done their homework. They had improved a heck of a lot. I remember after the first 20 minutes thinking, wow, this is going to be a game. And that actual final, after almost going through almost untouched all year, that final, we had to really scratch out a win. But thankfully we did.
Xavier Rush is with us, former All Black, now domiciled in Wales, and he was the skipper in 2003. And that's why I think the parallels is so interesting, because this team here has won 15 in a row. But just going back to yourself in 03, you know, a great season would have counted for nothing if you hadn't got over that final hurdle. What was the keys, Xavier? Because this team, the Blues team, it really struggled to beat the Brumbies last weekend. Do you need those kind of games where you almost trip up and slip up, you know, just to give you that kind of mindset that says that's how close it can get before a final?
I think sometimes you've got to be able to adapt. Sometimes you've got to be able to adapt in a game. And what we'd been doing all year wasn't actually working. I'd sort of sussed us out. We're using Sam Tutufo up the middle to get a lot of go forward. Well, they cancelled that out. We actually, late in that game, we started driving lineouts and kind of going away from our natural pattern because we couldn't get any go forward. But we at least had the ability to start changing a few things on the field. We've been together long enough. We had enough leadership in the team to be able to change things when we had to. So be able to adapt in a final if things aren't working is key.
What about the weight of expectation, mate? How does this team temper that? They've got a lot of experienced international players, but not a lot of players that have had this kind of particular experience. Yeah, I don't think it. I mean, it's nice to have that experience in key positions. You know, number 10 being one, number 9 being one, always does help. But, you know, I think their confidence won't be lacking. They've won 15 games on the trot. So these guys will be up for it. They know they can play well. So it can definitely help in terms of sort of just tapering yourself down. Don't get carried away with the occasion. But I think these guys will be obviously very confident with the season they've had. As you mentioned, Martin, it counts for nothing if they don't get the win in the final. But, you know, it always helps in key positions. But I think they'll have enough confidence for what they've done this season. As they say, when Auckland Rugby's strong, the All Blacks are strong, mate. So, you know, I mean, so maybe that actually does correspond if it does. But, you know, you grew up in an era when Auckland just dominated. And remember the Auckland Shuffle where the fans, and I'm from Wellington, I used to hate it, where the fans would move up the other end to watch the tries being scored and stuff like that. But it hasn't been like that for a long time now. So how important for this win to just re-establish Auckland and the Blues back to where they were?
Yeah, well,
obviously 15 wins on the trot's going to start to, people are going to start to obviously take notice. I remember coming back to New Zealand, I think it must have been about 2012, and I always thought, Auckland's got so many good first 15, so much good depth. It's a melting pot of talent. We've got a lot of Polynesian, young men who are, gifted and talented players. Auckland's always had, the stock there and the players there. It's just good to see some consistency with the coaches so they can establish, a good team, some good systems, especially from the school rugby going up, and I think you're seeing that talent starting to come through. But it's always been. We were lucky. We had Graham Henry come back from abroad with a wealth of experience. Probably one of the greatest All Black and New Zealand coaches.
Yeah.
And just by having his experience back with the talent we had, made a huge difference. He was a real catalyst for the success we had in 2002 with Auckland, and also 2003 with the Blues.
What are you thinking? Xavier Rush is with us, former All Black, and is captain in 2003, winning Blues Super Rugby side last time that the Blues won. Now, what are you thinking about all the red and yellow cards? It's a constant talking point. More, I suppose, because the rules are being enforced, absolutely rigorously by the refereeing. But are the rules that World Rugby laying down, are those rules actually working for the players?
I never actually played in when it was this brutal. Thankfully, I'm glad I don't. I think it's got a little bit carried away. Obviously they were brought in. I think the union was worried about lawsuits and different things. And some players may have suffered injuries, etc. I'm not a big fan of them. I think the referee has way too much control on the outcome of games these days. I think also, if players are sent off early in the game, I think you should be able to bring someone else on after X amount of time or something. I think it just has a way too much impact on the game, and sometimes. Some of the red cards, some of the tackling offences are almost unavoidable. It's a high-speed game, etc. It was always refereed with intent. When I was playing, and was it deliberate, etc., etc. I think it has way too much impact on the game. It's taken away a little bit from the game. Obviously, player safety is important, but at the same time, none of us started playing rugby because we thought it was gentle. We all started playing rugby because we like to, like to tackle people hard, etc., or run at people hard. So we played it because it was a contact sport. It's got a little bit carried away in my eyes. But the players don't have much control over it. The coaches don't have much control over that. It's the rules, really.
Fascinating to hear you say that it's so much more brutal now. You can watch a game now and you think, it's faster. The players are bigger. The players are musclier. The collisions are harder.
Well, I think the rules are more brutal, if I'm honest. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And in fact, the game, these days you have to be an athlete to play rugby. So, you are going to be a bit faster, a bit stronger. You can't be a rugby player these days. You've got to be an athlete first and a rugby player second, because you just won't keep up with the pace of the game.
Yeah, no one has said that out loud before. I think that's absolutely perfect, because as you're saying that, I was thinking, it used to be your fatties, didn't it? You had your fatties, you had your skinnies, you had your little guys, but these days, it's almost like rugby league where every player's kind of, the same physical stature. How much attention does the Super Rugby get up your end of the world, if any?
A lot of people love tuning into it because it's the best product on the market. Like if you watch the local game here, if you watch the regional game in Wales, you'd switch it off after 20 minutes, or maybe after 10. But the Super Rugby is played at a great pace. It's exciting. I don't think there's the defence is very different up here. It's all league defence. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in test matches now, that has a big impact on the outcomes of test matches. The All Blacks have lost a little bit of their shine because we're using quite an archaic defensive system.
I don't know whether if a team was imposing it in Super Rugby how that would go, because of the speed of the game, etc. But definitely at Test match level, Ireland and France with Sean Edwards there, they were very, very, very competitive, and they almost dominated and bullied the All Blacks a little bit when they were up here last time.
What are you doing in Wales anyway, mate?
So I've always been, I carried on my building career right through my rugby career. So I'd always have a building project on the go. So I carried on with that after rugby, and then in more recent times, the last 5 years, I've opened up a hair transplant clinic here. So we've got 2 surgeons working. We're doing about 10, 12 procedures a week over here, and we're giving the Welsh people their hair back, or the Welsh men, and sometimes women, and sometimes transgender, their hair back.
Have you had yours done or what?
I've had mine done twice. I had the front half done 10 years ago. I just had the back half done about 3 months ago.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for spending time with us, mate.
I'm hairier now than when I was in 2003.
I'll start looking up some pictures. And look, final, just give a little message and a shout out there to your old mates, mate.
Just want to say to the boys, all the very best for Saturday. Don't play the game too early. Go out and enjoy yourselves and do what you've been doing all year. Play. Make sure you play. Get out there and enjoy it.
Devlin.
But we've got more culture than a penicillin factory.
The Platform.